Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Cutfile Confidence, where MK and I are using cut files every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on our channels. These cut files are part of a class called Cutfile Confidence, and our private Zoom sessions will be starting in September. If you're interested in the class, I will put a link down below for you so you can find out more about it over on MK's website. So the cut file for today is Don't Let the World Change Your Smile. And I was super inspired by this one to use some photos of the little guy I take care of. And I apologize you don't get to see his face, but he's got the cheesiest grin and funniest faces on in these photos. So that's what I'm using today. And we are using embossing powder to alter our cut files in some way. So I decided to turn the smaller words on the background here black, and the larger words, the top layer will be black. So I've used some mint tape, or you can use post-it notes or post-it tape to mask off where the other words attach, because I don't want to get embossing powder on those. And I've just squished some Versamark embossing ink over the top of them, and I've poured some embossing powder on them. And I'm just using black embossing powder. And then any place where they might have smudged onto the other words, I'll just use a little paintbrush to clean that up and knock the embossing powder off. And I'm just going to use my paper here as a little funnel to funnel it all right back into the embossing powder jar. It really doesn't take a whole lot of embossing powder to do this process. It's very surprising. Sometimes, you might pour the entire thing out over a piece of paper, but what actually sticks is very little. So then you can kind of see the magic go here as I heat it up. Everything turns really glossy and shiny, and that powder basically turns into like a plastic coating that's black. You can get the same effect by using clear embossing powder and black ink. So that's another way to do it, or whatever color ink you want. So if you don't want to do a huge investment in embossing powder, clear is a great way to go because you can change the underneath portion of it to be whatever color you want using an ink pad. I just happen to have black in my stash, so that's what I am using. And I'm going to go over it with 2 coats to get it really glossy and really shiny and super black. And that's going to just kind of finish it off. So if there's any places where maybe it didn't stick perfectly on the first go around, it's going to make it look really nice and shiny and bold, basically. So you're getting to see me do it twice. I am actually going to be using embossing powder quite a bit on this layout. I figured I've got the stuff out and I've already got an embossing powder mess all over my desk, so I might as well just keep going rather than cleaning the whole thing up and then doing other things. I'm just going to embrace the mess of embossing powder. I know some people really love like the glitter and the embossing powder type of a deal, but it's very gritty and makes a big mess on your desk, even when you're neat about it. And it's not my favorite thing to play with, but I do love the effect that it gives, even though it's not, the mess is not my favorite thing. So you can see here the smaller words that I've gone ahead and put the embossing powder on. You can see them change as well. And I gave those 2 coats also just to make sure they're nice and bold. And I'm just using some scratch paper underneath my ink pad to capture some of the ink instead of getting it all over my desk and having to keep re-wiping it. But later on, you'll see I get a little bit lazy with that, and I end up just using my glass mat and having to wipe the leftover ink off of it, or embossing ink. You can get this same effect by using like a liquid glue and gluing it down. It's a lot more work to do, but the liquid glue will hold some of it. And so if you don't have like the Versamark ink, you can still do that. They also do make embossing pens, so you can use, it's like a marker, and you can use that. Some of them might change the background color like an ink pad would, and you can use whatever color of embossing powder right over the top. I have them, but I could not find them while I was doing this, so I did not do that. I did pull out this die set from All in Create, and it is called Clip something. Clip Strip? I don't know. I will try to put a link for it down below, but to be honest with you, I'm traveling right now, so I may not be able to get to that. So I'm not really sure. It might be down there, or it may not. But I went ahead and cut it out. It's going to give me a spot for 3 small photos. I've printed 3 smaller photos of my little guy here. And each one of these photos, he's making a different face. But he is smiling in all of them. He's just, he was rolling his eyes at the same time. So he looks really goofy. And again, I'm sorry you don't get to see that portion of it. But I just wanted to capture the moment. It was actually kind of a funny day because he had a little tiny nick above his lip, right below his nose, and he decided he needed a band-aid on it, and so he does have a large green band-aid between his lip and his nose, kind of like a mustache, a little bit off center. And he was headed to a swim lesson with a band-aid on his face, so I have no idea. He was just being so goofy about it. Normally he's a super tough guy, but when he heard there was blood, because he didn't even see it because it's on his face, he decided he needed a band-aid for it, even though it was smaller than, like, say, a shaving nick. So anyway, I just wanted to get this in his album because I don't want him to ever think that you know, his smile is not important. His smile is just heartwarming and fun, and it makes my heart happy. So I wanted to capture that, and I don't ever want that to change for him. So I did back his photo with some black paper, and I am going to ink up the edges of that as well, and I will put some embossing powder on that. I don't know if I go through the whole process here showing you. I think I show you that I dip it in the powder. I will say that the smart thing to do would be to remove the photo off of the paper before heating it up, because it will mess with your photo. I did have to reprint my photo because yeah, I use a Canon selfie, so it's a sublimation printer, so it's not printed like an inkjet, and it definitely made it bubble up a bit. So anyway, I had to reprint it. So take your photo off or do your embossing powder before you back your photo with it. And then I just pulled out a black sheet of 12 by 12 paper, and I'm using a notebook edger punch to give it that notebook edge. And then I'm going to emboss that as well. So I'm going to do 2 strips of that. I don't know that I make you sit through all of it. Maybe I do. I should know because I literally just edited this video, but I'm super tired, so I'm not sure. I think I show you the first one. So I did both edges. I am going to cut it apart, but I figured I'm just going to use the same piece of paper, and I'm using it. I'm being really lazy, you guys, and not getting out additional supplies, but I'm using it, the paper that I'm embossing, as the paper to catch all of the embossing powder and then dump it off onto an extra piece of paper. So I went ahead and heat set that. I did that over my trash can. That is actually my favorite way to do embossing powder. I don't normally do it over my desk. I just did it for you guys on camera, but normally I do it over my trash can because any of the powder that it might blow off ends up in my trash can instead of all over my desk. It is a much neater way to do it, but you wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. So I just showed you on some of those, but I did the big piece over the trash can. And then I'm just going to trim off my paper here. I am going to be adding some stitching to this layout, and I'm going to use the stitching, some of the stitching supplies out of MK's shop. I will link them down below. I use one of the templates to create a zigzag stitch, and then I'm just doing a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch. So I will be using those here in just a few minutes, and I'm going to link them, like I said, down below. I am adding this torn paper. This is actually the paper I was using to capture all of that extra embossing powder. And so I am now deciding to use that and tuck it in because I wanted a place to write this little story about his Band-Aid and his cute personality and his infectious smile. And so that's pretty much what I am doing there. Oh, here's where I am doing the the photo and the surrounding papers behind the photo. Again, I did not show you heating it because I did it over the trash can. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue everything down. While I glue it down, I just want to remind you to go check out MK's channel and see what she is doing with this cut file and what she is doing with embossing powder, because I'm quite sure it's going to be different than what I'm doing. That's usually what happens. Our brains work very differently. And so hopefully you get to see a little bit different technique of what is going to happen. The paper that I am putting into this little area, these white papers, they're not solid white. It's a little bit hard to see on the screen, but they do have a faint kind of tealy turquoise lines on them, a grid paper. Probably actually a ledger paper, not a grid. It's a ledger. And so it's tying in nicely to the background. That background paper is actually from the 49 and Market. I think it is the, oh my goodness, it's the one with the bees. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Yeah, so it's the one with the bees, you guys. I don't know what it's called. I will try to link it down below for you too if I can think of it or remember the name of it. But I love that paper. I think it's super pretty. I wish I had about 10 more sheets of it in my stash, but I only have one. So anyway, I am going to go ahead and do my stitching here. I pulled out a kind of light turquoise or light teal. It's not really, I don't know, somewhere between teal and turquoise thread here. It's just 6-strand DMC embroidery floss. And I am doing a bit of a straight stitch and then a zigzag and calling it done. So that is it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. I did leave that one photo clear so you get to see his Band-Aid, but you don't get to see his eyes and mouth. But I thought it was super funny. And also, it is a green Band-Aid, so it matches the background. You didn't get to see that in the video, but you got to see it here on the still shots. So that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed to my channel. I would really, really appreciate it. And if you have questions or comments, you can always leave those down below. I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.